Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your Raw results and your Superstar spoilers and happy birthday to WCW TV champion Dave Finlay, turned 55. Canadian legend Emily Dupree turned 77, and six-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Tiger Max 4 turned 43. I missed some birthdays last week, and these were also previous of last week. And that was on October the 19th, previous, and now for the 15th. Late pro wrestler Al Green, the real name of Alfredo DeBallo, who was born October 15, 1955, died June 14, 2013 of heart issues. At the age of 57, he worked as the Dog and teamed with Kevin Nash as the Master Blasters. Joey Abs, a.k.a. Jason Arndt, turned 43. He was born October 15, 1971 as part of Shane McMahon's Mean Street Posse. Former WCW wrestler and broadcaster Steve Mongo McMichael turned 57. He was born October 17, 1957. Mongo played for the Chicago Bears and was part of the legendary 1985 team. He also appeared in the corner of Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania 11 prior to his run in WCW. Kane Turner, and always said she's the sister of Alicia Fox. Crawford's Wikipedia page states that she has worked for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a cheerleader and also has a quick he calls in the ring with his heart punch. And they announce his real name as Douglas. On The Price is Right. Fun at the December 20th WWE live event in Los Angeles, California from the Staples Center. WWE will be announcing a big go-home WrestleMania 31 23rd at the same venue. Yeah, double tapings for one night. Former WWE announcer Hugo Savinovich, who works behind the scenes for and will return to AAA once his WWE deal expires. So he will be not be doing any appearances for WWE in the near future. As WWE wants Ray back on TV, but he doesn't want to come back. WWE will be able to extend his contract like they have done many times before. Todd sat front row from Raw in Kansas City. He wrote to say that after Dean Ambrose dove from the announce table onto the participants at the main event match on Raw, Randy Orton appeared to be legitimately hurt. Todd said Orton eventually made his way to the doctor at ringside and said, "The ruptured disc in my back is effed up." Todd said Orton had trouble getting in and out of the ring after that spot. They didn't come across on TV at all. We went back and watched it on the replays and on Monday night on his DVR, and Orton doesn't seem to be selling any different than usual. It could be that he's just hurting in that one area. As someone with a slight protruding disc, I can only imagine how that must feel. Yeesh! WWE is was advertising Hulk Hogan for Monday's Raw on TV, but did not appear, which was held in Kansas City. But after the TV stopped taping at the Sprint Center, WWE was a bait and switch fraud with false advertising for Raw from the previous week, but instead stay tuned for After the Raw on the WWE network for only $9.99, because they had a segment on the network with him and the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin was asked about making a return to the ring, and he said, "No, man, I'm not looking to make a return." Austin told a caller. Also noted that he will be going home to Texas for deer season, then starting a project in February that he can't discuss right now. "I don't see that I have time in my schedule for it. The desire to climb back in the ring, to start taking bumps again." Listen to the full show at podcast1.com/Steve-Austin-Show-Clean. Austin explained that there was confusion about him stating during a recent podcast last week that he is looking to make a return to Gold's Gym, which was misconstrued by some of his listeners who believe that he indicated that he was getting in shape for an in-ring return. And granted, I don't think Austin would let the cat out of the bag if he was planning to make an in-ring return, but he certainly sounded sincere while delivering that statement. It's also worth noting that Jim Ross shared the same story about the podcast confusion in his blog after speaking with Steve himself. WWE will hold the 2014 Slammy Awards edition of Raw on December 8th in Greenville, South Carolina at the Bonds Sakura's Wellness Arena. WWE is advertising Brock Lesnar for the show. It remains to be seen whether Lesnar is returning to the ring before the end of the year or if it's simply appearing at the annual award show. Well, by the way, he was also advertised for the SmackDown tapings for this week, which did not appear, as it was an old advertisement. They just didn't take the TV part of the arena showing of the advertisement. The Rack Radio with Kane, hosted by Lindsay Ward and Sir Rockin'. Audio interview available at wildtalkradio.com. We can expect from Jacob Goodnight in See No Evil 2. Well, this is going to be a little bit different than See No Evil. The girls who directed this film are twins, Jen and Sylvia Saska, and they have a huge following in the horror genre and are going to be the next big thing in horror. What's really interesting about See No Evil 2 for me, and I just got to see the finished copy the other day, is the fact that despite the film is dealing with disturbing material, it's a beautifully shot movie. It's beautiful, the cinematography is awesome, and the soundtrack is great. and it's really a contrast as you are dealing with this disturbing material and violence and everything, but also you're going, wow, this is really pretty. What we also tried to do was to try and bring more depth to the characters and to actually have not too stereotypical slasher movie. Let's make it a movie where you care about the people in the movie, and hopefully that brings out more emotional involvement and not just the visceral visual effects. So, but the fact that you're like, oh, I really like that person, and hopefully it makes it a little more scary that way. If you got more creative freedom in portraying Jacob Goodnight in the sequel, yeah, I guess I did actually. There were a couple of scenes which were added to the movie that weren't in the original script. That me and the Saska sisters fought for that sort of rounded Jacob out, bringing him more to life and making him more of a human being than a character. I was really happy about that. You still explore the relationship with his mother. Even despite the fact that his mother is no longer with us, she still has a tremendous impact on his psychology and on his emotions. In fact, in the first movie, See No Evil, the mother was the real villain, not Jacob. In this one, she's still the dominant aspect of his life. What it was like working for the Saska sisters, instead of female directors. We meshed really well because they are not your typical females. They are huge WWE fans, and they're probably into all the stuff us guys are into. So they were really great, and what was really interesting about working with them, and despite the fact that they are just two people, at times it's like you're dealing with one mind because Jen would often be on the floor and directing the action as Sylvia would be watching on the monitor, and you'd go through a scene and they'd be tweaked, and you wouldn't talk. They wouldn't talk to each other. Jen would just talk to you differently and do the scene over and over again. And Sylvia would go, okay, that's good. You'd be like, wait a second, how did they see through each other's eyes? Or what's going on? So at first I was worried, thinking, how are you going to work with two directors? Because the director is the boss. They're the ones who have the final say in what's going on, and how are you going to do it if there's two of them? But what was really cool about it? Well, it was like you're still, which is really scary. So I do have a lot of fun doing different things. One thing for years and years and years and years. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to do different characters. On now too. That's what makes our product really interesting. When it's not straightforward, there's all sorts of different things going on between everybody and what's going on. So I think moving forward through Hell in a Cell and afterwards is going to be quite interesting. His favorite Hell in a Cell moments? Well, my favorite would have to be, of course, my debut and ripping the door off and going in and giving a tombstone power driver to the Undertaker and having Vince McMahon screaming. That's got to be Kane. That would far and away have to be my favorite moment. Even though it wasn't Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I'll never forget the match between Undertaker and Mankind at the King of the Ring in Pittsburgh, when Mick went off the cell and then through the cell. That was one of those things that sort of rocketed the Attitude Era into the stratosphere. The weirdest thing he's ever gotten from a fan? I haven't gotten a lot of weird stuff. I've gotten a lot of stuffed animals, which is different, but probably the weirdest thing that's ever happened, or most uncomfortable thing that's ever happened, was I received a fan letter at my house. It was really, really nice, and it was from a gentleman who was interested in promoting drug awareness and gang resistance and that sort of thing. It was really great, except the fact that he was going to do that once he got out of prison. So yeah, the letter had come from prison. I don't get a whole lot of really weird stuff. You can follow Kane through Twitter at Kane WWE for all the latest on his news and notes. You can also see Kane in his new film, See No Evil 2, directed by the Sasko twins, and their Twitter account at Twisted_Twins, and produced by WWE Studios and Lionsgate. Make sure to visit the film's official Twitter at See No Evil 2 Movie for the latest See No Evil 2 news. Visit your preferred video trailer to purchase a digital download available Friday, October 17th, or to pre-order your Blu-ray DVD available on October 21st. You can also see Kane weekly on various WWE programming. Go to WWE Network to see pay-per-view shows and archives of the Big Red Machine for only $9.99. Visit WWE.com for program info and check with your local cable provider for channel listings, times, and availability in your own local area. JR's much anticipated FoxSports.com article on the 1998 Hell in a Cell match between Mick Foley as Mankind and The Undertaker explains how the idea to toss Foley off the cage was a tongue-in-cheek joke from WWE Hall of Famer Terry Funk. This is quoted, after Foley and Funk stopped off at WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut to review the first Hell in a Cell match that featured Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. The two hardcore legends quickly ascertained that topping HBK versus Taker in Hell in a Cell number 1 wasn't going to be easy. Maybe you should let him throw you off the top of the cage to start off the match, as Funk said, while laughing at Foley's dilemma. The article doesn't cover a lot of new ground, but it is interesting read. JR, having sat at ringside and called the moment, also interjects with what was going through his head in those moments. Perhaps the best thing he does is remind people that Foley's night, as brutal and amazing as it had only just begun. I personally cringed more during the fall through the cage and did the night it happened too. If you have somehow made it this far in your fandom and not seen the full match, JR has it embedded in his article for you. The chief brand officer and air personality Stephanie McMahon spoke with Yahoo Sports about several topics of interest. Among the highlights, Stephanie comments on competition in wrestling. I think competition is always healthy, but what we look at is competition is everything out there and all entertainment and sports programming, because we really are such a unique hybrid. There's nothing like us in the world. Monday Night Football is a competitor to Monday Night Raw. Yes, I think competition is incredibly healthy, no matter where it comes from. Stephanie comments on NXT. NXT and the Performance Center is crucial to the success of our company. When you look at the Performance Center itself, it has 7 rings, play-by-play announce booth. It has green screen rooms to develop your mic skills and their character and who your character is. It is the most comprehensive development center in the WWE has ever had. And according to some insiders in the NFL, they say it's on par or even better than some of the training centers in the NFL. Stephanie comments on the Susan G. Komen relationship. The name of the campaign is Courage, Conquer Cure. We are doing our pink out as we have done for the past 3 years, and we turn the middle ring rope pink. We have the Susan G. Komen logo on our stage and the announcer's table. We have branded merchandise from Hulk Hogan to John Cena to the Bella Twins, and the co-branded merchandise, as well as all of WWE's merchandise, has a percentage that's also donated to the Susan G. Komen. And on Total Divas, we are going to be featuring Susan G. Komen as well. Stephanie talks about claims that the Total Diva star can't be Divas champion. Absolutely not. I honestly don't even know how that rumor got started. As Nikki Bella in a radio interview, the question posed by the interviewer for competition included TNA, but Stephanie never said their name. Stephanie also talked about their domestic violence policy, which is an immediate suspension on charging and termination on conviction. That may be true, but they still do business with you after that. Just ask Stone Cold Steve Austin. There is not a dark match listed for tonight for the Raw taping. The soldier who Rusev attacked on Monday's Raw was independent wrestler and Magnum Pro Wrestling owner Jason Strife. Strife has never served in the United States military. Former Ring of Champion Adam Pearce is making his third visit to the WWE Performance Center this week, leading to speculation that he is there to interview for a job. As noted on a website, if Pearce does end up landing a job as a trainer in WWE, he might end up replacing Eugene Nick Dinsmore, who has recently been released from last week. Former WWE and WCW talent Lance Storm recently revealed that his favorite NXT wrestler is Charlotte. In response to JBL's often used line about "you can't teach strength," WWE NXT star Aiden English of the Vaudevillains responded with the following comment by Twitter. Every week at JC Layfield says, quote, "You can't teach strength." I think that rumors strength coaches in the sports field beg to differ. Hashtag Raw. According to sources, there is a discussion about turning Randy Orton babyface. The reason for this chant is that with John Cena and Orton leading to the 2 house show circuits, live events, Orton is not drawing very well as a heel, and they want to turn that around. There appears to be a possible Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins feud being planned. Check out the results in Raw, which would suggest an Orton face turn as well. Orton RKOing Heyman on Raw may suggest that he is going to beat Cena and go on to face Lesnar. Likely at the Royal Rumble, this would give Orton a couple of months to feud with Rollins and cement himself as a babyface and prep him to fight for the title at the Rumble. The other option would be to bring in Lesnar a little bit sooner than they are, as they are supposedly in negotiations with Lesnar, and that would lead off into that Orton feud. As if Missouri didn't have enough going on right now, there was also a breast cancer awareness show Sunday night in Coral Junction. The main event saw Mr. Saturday Night, Michael Berry, who was a contestant on Steve Austin's Broken Skull Ranch, defeat Loverboy Matt Riviera from the Millionaire Matchmaker. Other results: APOC defeated the Mangler, Chocolate Prophet Kyle King defeated Iceman, Jake O'Brien defeated Darling Dustin Heritage, Ace Steel defeated Superstar Steve Fender, and TCW Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm defeated APOC to retain the title. Slam City Show will begin airing on earlier on Wednesday night. As I'm doing this on Wednesday night, recording, and the show will be airing during the Nick Sports on Nicktoons Network. from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. 2 hour show. And that's Central Standard Time. For those in the Eastern, that's 9 to 11 Eastern Time Zone. Slam City is geared to relatively young kinds, so it's a little surprised at how late in the day it will air. Nevertheless, it's another programming fee for WWE, and they need all the revenue they can get ahead of next week's conference call. Thanks to Kyle G, who sent in the spoilers for Superstars. Tyson Kidd defeated Kofi Kingston, and Jack Swagger defeated Bo Dallas. Raw pre-show being broadcasted on the WWE Network. Shots of the crowd entering the Sprint Center were shown as Byron Saxton, Alex Riley, Booker T checked on as usual hosts. They hyped Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, and Kane versus John Cena, Dean Ambrose in a handicap street fight, which was the main event. The video and the panel hyped the history of Cena and Ambrose leading up to their teaming tonight. And they hyped the cell matches and how the match will affect them. Saxon announced Gold and Stardust defending the tag titles against the Usos at Hell in a Cell. Then they ran down the rest of the card. They gave the video history for most of the matches. Renee Young then interviewed AJ Lee about her recently announced title match with Paige. And then AJ cut a strange and rambling promo and closed by saying no one would take the title away from her. Then they closed the pre-show off with a bold prediction, and Booker basically gave away that the cell would drop at the end of Raw. Raw opened up with a look back at last week's show. We're live from Kansas City with JBL, Jerry the King Lawler, and Michael Coleslaw. We see the Hell in a Cell structure above the ring. The Authority hits the stage as Triple H, Kane, Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins make their way to the ring. Triple H says he's proud of the guys in the ring with him and hypes tonight's main event. He also plugs the Hell in a Cell and the WWE Network. How much is it? $9.99 plug. Triple H says the Hell in a Cell would put an end to two rivalries, John Cena versus Orton and Dean Ambrose versus Rollins. Rollins and Orton have words about the main event. Triple H steps in and says that they're both in the main event. As it will be a double main event, he announces that the winner of Cena and Orton has a new stipulation. The winner will get a future title shot at the World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. And they hype for more. And then Kane's pyro goes off for no reason. Sheamus and Usos versus the Miz, Stardust and Goldust starts off the first match of Raw as we go to commercial. We'll come back in a sidebar video. The Usos make their entrance as the WWE Tag Team Champions. Stardust and Goldust are out next. Miz was out next by himself with a stunt double coming out, mimicking him. Well, not by himself. Miz puts Sandow in the match instead in his place, and the crowd pops. Stardust starts things off with Jimmy Uso while the Miz joins the gold commentary. Back and forth action between the two teams. As we go to commercial, approaches Triple H backstage. He promises to beat Cena, then Lesnar, and then go into WrestleMania 31 with the gold. Triple H doesn't doubt him. Time coming for Orton. Triple H says that the whole stipulation change was a non-title match. Non-title match. It was all that Rusev, Paige, and Alicia celebrated together after the match. Was on his team and tells him to stay out of his business. Rollins teases cashing in on Orton when he defeats Lesnar for the title. As we go to commercial, we come back and Orton takes and rips John Cena. Cena makes his way out for a face-off. Cena stands up for Kansas City and says Orton hasn't been relevant since 2002. Cena gets a pop for mentioning the Royal. Heyman reminds that Brock Lesnar was also in the class of 2002. Heyman hypes Lesnar and says that the winner of Cena versus Orton is really the ultimate loser. Rusev and Lana making their way to the ring after replays from last week's show with Big Show. Back to commercial. Rusev versus Big E. Back for the break. And Rusev is waving the blocks a shot and slams Rusev headfirst into the barrier. Big E rolls Rusev back in and beats him into the corner. Big E with shoulder thrust now. Big E keeps blocking comebacks, but Rusev takes him down with a huge spinning heel kick. Back to commercial. We'll come back and Big E is in the middle of the ring with a comeback, but runs into a huge boot from Rusev. Rusev then stomps on his back and applies the accolade for the win. After the match, Lana cut a promo and says that the cowardly Big Show will fail all Americans at Hell in a Cell. She says he's not an American hero. He belongs in a circus where people throw half-eaten food at him, and he sits in his own excrement. Rusev said he's going to rip Show's heart out. Rusev fans will despise Show when he fails them. Lana tells us to rise for the real red, white, and blue. Then the Russian flag doesn't drop down, and they're upset about it. Big Show appears on the big screen for laughing as Show makes the American flag drop down instead, and Stars Forever plays. Rusev goes to rip down the American flag, but out of nowhere, a supposedly United States soldier rushes the ring. Security meets him and tries to hold him back, but they trip him up, and Rusev drops the guy with a big kick to the face. But it actually barely nicks him, and Rusev leaves, and they check on the soldier as we go to commercial. Back from the break, and we get a replay of what just happened. They also show during the commercial where Show and the trainers helped the soldier from ringside. Show was in the ring now. He said there are some lines that you don't cross. And he hesitated for a minute or two, and he was started with a small cry. Show got angry and says if Rusev wants to get in his head is a dark place. Show says that what Rusev just did is going to cause him to unleash everything he has on Rusev's head. Show then says Rusev's 15 minutes of fame are up on Sunday. Show leaves, but comes back in. He calls Rusev to the ring for a fight right now. Fan chant USA, but Rusev doesn't show up. Show says if Rusev doesn't come to him, he will go find him. Show drops the mic and heads to the back to look for Rusev. Then we catch up with Show backstage as he asks the crew member which door is Rusev in. Show kicks the door down, but the room is empty. He just stands there. Dean Ambrose is backstage watching See No Evil 2 trailer and eating popcorn. John Cena walks in and Ambrose says he's doing research for the main event. Ambrose is his usual self and says they don't mix. Ambrose tries to calm Cena down and says there's no problem with the main event. Everything is under control. Back to commercial. Then we get Brie Bella versus Summer Rae for the next match. Back from the break, Divas are already in the ring. Brie takes control with a big Borgasm miss chant. And she unloads with kicks in the corner. We see Nikki watching backstage. Summer catches Bree and drops her for a 2 count. Summer keeps Bree grounded now. Summer with more offense and a close 2 count. She gets frustrated and screams before stopping away as Bree turns it around and nails a missile drop kick for the corner. And then Bree nails the face buster for the win. After the match, we see Nikki still watching backstage as she's discussing as Bree celebrates her win. Still to come segment, the street fight main event. And we see Dean Ambrose walking backstage as he's got a big bag loaded with something. Back to commercial. Back from the break, and we get Dean Ambrose in the ring. He's got a chair and a big bag. He pulls a dummy, Seth Rollins, out of the bag and sits it in the chair. Ambrose cuts a promo to the dummy. Ambrose takes one of the arms off and smacks him around with it. He pulls a large screwdriver out of the other bag and rams it down the dummy's mouth. He's got a hammer next and beats the dummy in the head with it. Ambrose says he saw something in his dream last night and pulls out a handsaw. Ambrose says he saw himself cutting Rollins' testicles off, but remembered he doesn't have any. Ambrose then grabs a pair of tongs and grabs the dummy's crotch with it. Ambrose pile drives the dummy and we finally get some kind of pop. The music hits and out comes Rollins, Joey Mercury, and Jamie Noble to the stage. Rollins says Ambrose finally found an opponent he can match up to intellectually. Rollins then knocks Ambrose's bad comedy. Ambrose throws the dummy arm up the ramp as the fans chant, "You sold out." Rollins goes on and rips the local crowd calling them trailer park trash and losers. Rollins approaches the ring and brags about being rich and famous. Rollins enters the ring and keeps talking until the music interrupts and out comes Mick Foley to a huge reaction. Foley says he came to visit an old friend and looks up at the cell. Foley goes on and appraises them both. Rollins rips Foley and says he has a half-working brain. Rollins also picks on Foley's Santa Claus obsession. Foley gets loud now and talks about the Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker 18 years ago. Fans chant, "Thank you, Foley," as Ambrose shows Foley respect, but says he isn't worried about what might happen in the cell. Ambrose says people backstage don't get him, but Foley can probably look in his eyes and know he's ready. Ambrose says Rollins will be waking up in a hospital bed Monday morning. Ambrose drops the mic. Rollins says that they're both crazy and out of their minds. Foley warns them about the cell some more and gets a cheap pop from the Kansas City crowd. Foley ends it by telling them to have a nice day and leaves as his music plays as Ambrose throws his arm up to Rollins. Ambrose ends up tossing Rollins into the Stooges on the floor. Then we see Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro heading to the ring. Back to commercial. Back from the break, Cesaro is awaiting in the ring as the WWE Intercontinental Champion. Dolph Ziggler makes his way out for a non-title match. They go at it and Cesaro takes control early on. Ziggler ends up hitting the big drop kick. Cesaro goes to the apron but comes back in and Ziggler clotheslines him to the floor. Ziggler follows and throws Cesaro into a barrier. Ziggler brought it back in for a 2 count, but Cesaro took back control as we go to commercial. Back from the break, they're going at it again. Cesaro taking control and comes off the second rope with a big shot. Cesaro jumps off the rope again and nails an elbow drop for a 2 count. Ziggler finally counters with a big drop kick. And Cesaro comes off the ropes again. Ziggler makes a big comeback and hits the splash in the corner. Ziggler with a neck breaker as the fans pop. Ziggler drops a big elbow drop for another 2 count. Cesaro blocks the Famouser and they trade pins. Ziggler runs into an elbow. Cesaro goes for a double underhook, but Ziggler counters it and hits the Famouser for a 2 count. More back and forth. Then they trade counters and Cesaro drops Dolph with a big uppercut for the non-title win. After the match, Cesaro nails the neutralizer after he left the ring and he came back in and left Ziggler laying. Rollins, Orton, and Kane backstage until Triple H walked in and shut them up. He says Kane will be the general for their match tonight because Orton and Rollins can't get along. Kane yells at them both to shut up and says it's time to handle business. Kane says it's time to give Cena and Ambrose a taste of hell. They walk off. Still to come segment, the street fight main event. Back to the break. we come back and Paul Heyman is announced for the Hell in a Cell kickoff pre-show. Also, the pre-show will feature Miz TV with The Miz and Damien Sandow. They air another video from the Wyatt family handicap street fight. John Cena and Dean Ambrose versus Kane, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins. We go to the ring for your main event. Out first comes John Cena. If you can't see me, then Dean Ambrose. And we go back to commercial. Then we see Hulk Hogan backstage with Renee Young. Well, I did not see that part myself. Well, Hogan will be interviewed on the post show tonight. And that was it for his all-in-all segment. Back in the ring, and the Authority makes their way out. The big brawl starts the match. It comes down to Rollins and Ambrose going at it. Rollins stalks away in the corner. Ambrose turns it around and taunts Orton with Rollins in a submission. Orton with a big clothesline of Rollins. Ambrose knocks Kane off the apron and throws Rollins to the floor. Ambrose takes the announce table apart and brings Rollins back on it. But Orton and Kane make the save. Cena comes over to stop them, but they beat on him. Ambrose nails an elbow off the announce table and everyone goes down. Ambrose brings a steel chair from under the ring. Ambrose brings the chair back in and works Rollins over with it. Fans chant for the table, then Ambrose brings one from under the ring. Kane runs over and drops Ambrose on the flat table. Kane sends Cena into the steel steps as we go to commercial. Back from the break, Rollins is in control of Ambrose as Orton and Rollins tag each other in and out, and keep control on Ambrose. Rollins wastes time and shows off. Ambrose finally comes back and unloads on Orton. Orton runs into a big boot. Orton goes down after another shot, and Ambrose finally tags Cena in. Cena unloads on Rollins with shoulders and then a slam. Cena goes for the 5-knuckle shuffle, 5 moves of doom, and nails it. Kane comes in and takes the attitude adjustment. Kane brings the table into the ring. Cena goes for attitude adjustment on Rollins through a table, but it's blocked. Rollins then sends Cena into a chair that's wedged in the corner, and Cena hits it hard. Ambrose goes into the steel steps on the outside. Orton rams Ambrose into a piece of the stairs that Kane launched. Rollins keeps control of Cena and goes for a 2 count. The Authority continues to beat up Cena. Kane tosses him over the announce table and then whips him into the steps. Cena goes through a table in the corner. Next is Kane covering Cena, but stops and kicks Ambrose off the apron. The Cell lowers down over the ring as he signals for it to lower. And now Cena unloads on Kane as he's jumping under the cage back into the ring. And then Kane drops him. Ambrose slides under the Cell as well and tags in, leaping onto all 3 opponents. Ambrose unloads and sends Rollins flying into the Cell with a kick. Ambrose then beats Orton with a kendo stick. Ambrose brings another chair in. Ambrose uses the chair to drop an elbow on Orton. Kane comes in for a choke slam, but Ambrose hits him with a chair. Orton gets sent to the floor, as does Rollins on top of Orton. Ambrose runs the ropes and takes out Rollins with a dive. Orton then brings Ambrose back in the ring for an RKO, but Cena goes for that adjustment. Kane stops it and chokeslams Cena. Ambrose hits Kane with a dirty deed. Orton uppercuts Ambrose and hits an RKO. Orton covers Ambrose